I'm Professor John Schwant, and students of Greek often ask me how to accent ancient Greek or biblical Greek words. So this video series will show you how to do just that. This video will cover the general principles for accenting any word, and it's about as complicated as a double play in baseball. Then I will have a video on how to accent nonverbs, basically which accent to place where for nonverbs. Then I will do the same thing for verbs. You can find other videos and other tools on my Facebook page at facebook.com/IBG page. And I look forward to seeing you there and hope you enjoy this video. Before I can get into the particular rules for accenting verbs and nonverbs, we need to know the general principles for accenting. So this video will cover the types of accents, the types of syllables, then I will treat the issue of the length of vowels as well so we can determine whether we have long syllables or short syllables. So on to our first topic, the types of accents. There are three types of accents in Greek: the acute, the grave, and the circumflex. Although we have three types, three different shapes, they all perform the same function. They simply show where to stress a word. This is important in Greek since the placement of stress can help to identify such things as noun case, verb tense, and verb mood. For these reasons, it's extremely confusing when Greek words are misaccented. We will use this sentence as our example for accenting, and it has basically all of the possible combinations for accenting that we will find in Greek. Listen to how I stress it as I read it. Don't worry about the pronunciation I use. I use a reconstructed biblical Greek pronunciation. There are many different options, and I can explain those to you later, but think about where I'm accenting each syllable. Agapetu o anthropos o legon en avtomene o phili, kathos akinos periapatesen ke avtos peripatin. Now, how you pronounce each diphthong or each vowel is far less important than where you stress it. If you've had Greek before, try reading the sentence and see where you end up stressing each syllable. The results may be surprising. But by the end of this video series, you will not only know where to accent each word, but which accents to use. Now let's take a look at the acutes in this sentence. An acute looks like an upward tick mark. And as we see here, it can be found on any of the last three syllables of a word. And it can be found over any length of vowel as well. And we'll get into the particulars of this as we work through the material. The grave looks like a downward tick mark. And it is merely an acute that has changed into a grave when it's on the final syllable of a word followed by another word. So, for example, agapetu remains an acute since it's followed by a punctuation mark. But kathos used to have an acute. It changes to a grave because it's on the last syllable and followed by another word, akinos. We see the same thing happening with ke and avtos. Circumflex looks like an upside-down breve mark or a frowny face in some fonts, or a tilde, just depending on what font you're using or seeing. This font happens to use a tilde. We can see it over avto, akinos, and peripatin. Notice from these two examples, it is only found over the last two syllables of any word and only over long vowels. Before we talk about the length of vowels, let's talk about the types of syllables. We are only concerned with the last three syllables of a word, since those are the only ones that may be accented, and we have names for them. The antepenult is the third to last syllable. It's before the penult, antepenult. The penult, short for penultima, is before the ultima. It's the second to last syllable. It's before the ultima. And then the last syllable, the ultima, is the final syllable of a word, and it is the most important. It governs the possible accenting. One way to remember how these syllables can affect accenting is to think of them as pieces of land or islands or steps in a race towards the beginning of the word. Remember, the only syllable that really matters is the ultima. If it is short, an acute is eligible for any of the three syllables. And since this accent is so fast and can make it to the earliest position for accenting, I think of it as a hair. It is only the length of the ultima that determines the range of the placements for the acute. The ultima must be short for the acute to have the range all the way out to the antepenult. The other syllables can be long or short. The circumflex isn't so fast. With the same short ultima, it can only get out to the penult. I would place it over the ultima as well, but we are assuming it's short, remember, and circumflexes can only go over long syllables. Now let's assume we have a long ultima. It slows everything down. Acute can only get to the last two syllables in this situation. Circumflex can only be on the last, the ultima itself. The length of the penult doesn't matter or affect anything. We're only concerned with the length of the ultima. Notice we still have the same relationship between the circumflex and the acute. The circumflex is one step behind. It's just that everybody has one fewer steps with a long ultima. Now, in order to determine whether the ultima is long or short, it depends on the length of the vowel. So if there's a long vowel, it's going to be a long ultima. If it's a short vowel, it's going to be a short ultima. So let's take a look at vowel length. Our three basic vowels are A, E, and O, or in Greek, alpha, epsilon, and omicron. Epsilon and omicron are always short, along with a final omicron iota and alpha iota. Those two diphthongs, when they're the final letters, those are short as well. And that covers everything that must be short. Alpha may be short or long, as well as the semivowels, which are iota and upsilon. They function like Y. They may be used as a vowel or a consonant, and they may be either short or long. Eta and omega are always long. They're the two long forms of epsilon and omicron. And all of the digraphs, or the diphthongs, alpha iota, epsilon iota, omicron iota, alpha upsilon, and omicron upsilon, those are always long, except for our exceptions, the final omicron iota and alpha iota. So if we look through this sentence, we see that agape 2 has a short ultima. It has one of our exceptional digraphs at the end. It's the final letters, omicron iota are final letters, so it's short. O, it's the article, it's short. Omicron's always short. Anthropos has a short ultima. Omicron's always short. O, again, short. Legon, with an omega at the end, is long. It has an acute on the penult. It's okay. In, epsilon short. Afto, omega is long. Meaning, the epsilon iota in that word is long. It's a digraph. Same with ophili, has a long ultima. Kathos has a long ultima, omega. Akinos has a short ultima, omicron is always short. Periepatesin, short, epsilon's always short. Ke, that's short, that's one of our exceptional digraphs. Alpha iota, when it's the final letters, is short. Aftos, short, omicron's always short. And peripatin, long, it's a digraph. The digraphs are always long except for our two exceptions. Well, that's all the general principles for accenting. We have the length of vowels, determining how long the syllables are. Mainly just the ultima is what we're looking at. And then the three types of accents and how the length of ultima determines where those may be placed. You're welcome now to go on and watch the next videos, the retentive accent for non-verbs, and then the recessive accent for verbs. I know this seems like a lot of information right now, but basically it's about as complicated as a double play in baseball. If you think of the ultima as first base, that determines whether there's a force or not on second base and so on. So really the ultima is determining what is available as far as accenting goes, and that will become very clear as you watch the other videos. I'm Professor John Schwant, and please follow the Institute of Biblical Greek at facebook.com/IBG page.